I stood by the kitchen door, wiping my hands on my apron, pretending not to hear them. But I heard every word. "She's used to scraps," the groom's sister whispered, laughing as she handed the dirty plates to me like I was invisible. "Just leave them in the garage. That's where she belongs." The words hit me harder than I thought they would. I'd been hired as extra help for my ex's wedding, and I thought I could handle it. But nothing could prepare me for seeing him again, standing next to her. His new bride was everything I wasn't. Rich, loud, dripping in designer labels, and worst of all, she knew me. Knew what I used to be, and she made sure everyone else remembered too. I kept my head down, walking toward the garage where the less important stuff was stored. Old chairs, dirty dishes, and apparently, me. As I placed the plates down, I overheard them giggling again from across the courtyard. "Imagine dating that," she said. "He must have been so desperate back then." I didn't cry, not this time. But my hands were shaking. It wasn't just the humiliation of being treated like a stray dog at a celebration where I once thought I'd be the bride. It was the memories of how hard I worked to survive after he left, how I rebuilt myself one dish at a time while he got richer, colder, and more distant. The worst part? I didn't even come here by choice. I needed the money. Rent was due. My little brother needed his school fee covered, and this was the only catering job that hadn't canceled on me this week, so I swallowed the lump in my throat, fixed my smile, and walked back out with a tray of drinks, just in time to hear her raise her glass and say loudly, "Let's toast to real women, ones who don't settle for leftovers." People chuckled, some awkwardly, some looked around, and then some looked at me. I felt every eye on me like heat. I almost turned back toward the kitchen until I noticed something. A sleek black limo pulling into the driveway. The driver stepped out, walked to the back, and opened the door. A tall woman with red lipstick, a sharp black suit, and a quiet confidence stepped out. She looked around, then pointed at me. "You," she said. "I'm looking for you." The entire courtyard went still. The bride froze mid-toast. My ex turned pale. I blinked, confused, wondering if I was hearing right. But the woman was walking toward me now, and with every step she took, the silence grew louder. She stopped right in front of me, her eyes scanning my face like she was trying to confirm something. Then, without hesitation, she smiled and said, "I've been searching for you for weeks. You catered that retirement event at Westwood Country Club, right?" My lips parted, but no words came out. I just nodded slowly, still gripping the tray in my hand. "I was one of the guests," she continued, her voice calm but commanding. "You made that saffron rice and lamb dish. I've never forgotten it." She turned to the stunned crowd, raised a perfectly manicured eyebrow, and added, "I run a luxury events firm in Dubai. We're launching in LA and I need a head chef. The job comes with a penthouse, international travel, and a 6-figure salary. Interested?" The tray slipped from my fingers. It didn't fall. She caught it mid-air, like she already knew I'd freeze. The entire wedding party stared, jaws open. My ex took a step forward, stammering, "Wait, her? You're offering her a job?" The woman turned to him, unimpressed. "Do you know her work?" she asked. He scoffed. "Yeah, I knew her once." She's just a kitchen hand." Her gaze sharpened. "Then you clearly didn't know her at all." And then she looked back at me, softly now. "You didn't apply, but your food did." The silence was unbearable. You could almost hear people breathing. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, trying to catch up with the moment. I managed to whisper, I don't even have a resume." She laughed gently. "Then let's start with lunch. My flight's in 3 hours. Come with me. Show me what else you can do." Someone in the crowd clapped, then another, and suddenly the awkward air turned into murmurs. The bride's smile faded into stone. My ex just stood there, mouth half open, eyes darting like he'd seen a ghost rise from the garage. I looked at the limo, then at the tray I'd just let go of, then at her, This woman who'd walked into my worst day and opened a door I didn't even know existed. And for the first time in years, I stood up straighter. I wiped my hands, took a breath, and followed her out, leaving behind a wedding, a memory, and a past that no longer defined me. The limo door closed behind me with a soft click, but the sound echoed like thunder in my chest. As we drove off, I didn't look back. Not at the grand hall, not at the stunned faces, and definitely not at him. The silence inside the limo was comforting, wrapped in soft leather and the gentle hum of possibility. She offered me sparkling water and asked, "So why were you in the garage?" I hesitated, unsure how much to say. But then I remembered the woman who caught my tray, the one who saw me when no one else did. They told me I didn't belong inside, said I was used to scraps, that I wouldn't fit in with their kind of people. She nodded slowly. People say a lot when they're scared of talent they can't control. We arrived at her hotel, one of those sleek towers with glass walls that shimmered like a dream. The suite's kitchen was bigger than my whole apartment. She handed me a basket of ingredients. "Impress me. No pressure," she said with a wink. My hands moved almost automatically, chopping, searing, seasoning. Every movement was an answer to the voices that once told me I wasn't good enough. She watched quietly, smiling at each step. And when I plated the final dish and slid it across the counter, she took one bite and closed her eyes. When she opened them, she leaned forward and said, "You're not a cook, you're an artist, and we're going to build something amazing together." I blinked, trying to process it. "Why me?" I asked. "Because real flavor doesn't come from fancy schools or white tablecloths. It comes from struggle, from hunger, from someone who's tasted both humiliation and hope." Just then, her phone buzzed. She answered quickly, then turned to me. "Change of plans. I told my investors about you. They want to meet. Right now." We drove to a rooftop overlooking the skyline. I stepped out, heart racing, into a room filled with suits and sleek haircuts. The woman introduced me like I was royalty. "This is the chef I told you about, the one who made strangers cry over lamb?" A man with a deep voice asked, "What's your vision?" I didn't flinch. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "To build a kitchen where no one's sent to the garage again?" He smiled. "Welcome aboard." The restaurant opened 3 months later. It wasn't in some back alley or basement kitchen. It was right in the heart of the city, where the skyline kissed the windows and the elite made dinner reservations weeks in advance. But this place wasn't like the others. There were no velvet ropes or whispered judgments. We hired people who had been told no too many times. Single moms, ex-cons, street kids with burnt hands but fire in their hearts. And I didn't forget the woman in the limo. She stood by me through every inspection, every tasting, every moment I felt like giving up. We called the place Second Course, because everyone deserves another chance, and sometimes that second course is the one that changes everything. On opening night, I stepped into the dining room dressed not as a waitress, but as the head chef. The lights were warm, the air thick with spices and ambition. I was plating dishes when the hostess whispered, "Table 5 is here. You might want to take this one yourself." I turned and froze. It was him, Mark. The same man who once shoved me into the garage. His wife, mother, and a few of their elite friends sat beside him, dressed in silence. He hadn't seen me yet. I walked to the table slowly, heart steady. He looked up and his face twisted, not in anger, but confusion. "You work here?" he asked, voice lower now. I smiled gently. "No, Mark. I run this place." The table went still. He stammered, This is your restaurant?" "Yes, and don't worry, we don't serve scraps here, just real food for real people." I turned to his wife. "Can I recommend the lamb? It changed my life once." As I walked away, I didn't look back this time either. But I didn't need to. I could feel the weight of their silence, the discomfort of being seated in a world they once thought was beneath them. For the first time, I had the power, and I wasn't going to waste it by gloating. I was going to keep feeding people with food, with kindness, and with the quiet revenge of living well. That night, after closing, I sat alone in the kitchen, lights dimmed, apron folded beside me. The air still carried the scent of roasted garlic and seared memories. I thought about everything, how a garage became a stepping stone, how cruel words became fuel, and how a woman in a limo reminded me that worth isn't handed to you by the rich. It's something you discover in the ashes. A knock came on the back door. I opened it to find the limo driver holding a small envelope. "She wanted you to have this," he said, smiling softly. Inside was a note. "You turned pain into purpose. Never forget, scraps can still feed the world. Proud of you." I held that note like a prayer. The next day, a food critic visited, wrote a piece titled, "From Garage to Greatness, the Chef Who Served Back Dignity." We got booked out for months, but that wasn't the real win. The real win came a week later when a young girl in a torn hoodie walked through my doors, clutching a worn resume. "They said I wasn't good enough," she mumbled. I looked her in the eyes and said the words I once needed to hear. "You're already enough. Let's get to work." And just like that, the cycle broke. Because sometimes life doesn't give you justice on a silver platter. Sometimes you have to cook it yourself, slow, bold, and full of heart. This is Family Truths Unfold, where every story proves that the truth always finds a way to the surface. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories that matter. And remember, never underestimate someone who's been through fire. They don't burn, they shine.